Thank you for listening to the Golden Hour Drip podcast with me, Logan Lee Miller. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Golden Hour Drip podcast. I'm your host, Logan Lee Miller. Happy Friday. Oh my gosh. I seriously do love my Fridays. I love getting to Friday and just knowing that I only have a couple more hours left before the weekend, the sweet, sweet weekend. And I'm not sure what you're doing. If you made plans with friends, or maybe you're going to the library, maybe you're rotting in your bed all damn day. That is fine. That's your prerogative. I just think that there is such a fun sense of enjoyment and anticipation come Friday. So I hope that you're having an amazing Friday. I hope you have done something to make yourself feel good. And even if you do have to work over the weekend, right? Like sometimes we have to, sometimes we, have to show up on the weekend too. But there is just something so promising and magical about a Friday that anything can happen. And I know on social media, everybody is pushing fall and starting to have like fall decor put out, which listen, I love that for you. If you want to put your skeletons and your pumpkins out a little bit early, you do you, okay? Do that. But I'm trying to hold on to the last little bit of summer, and we only have, I think, if the first day of fall is September 22nd, maybe it's a Sunday. If the first day of fall is September 22nd, we have, that's 3 weekends. We only have like 7 more weekends of summer, right? And our temperature dropped, like the last 2 days, it's dropped a little bit, where we're mid 80s. Okay. And in the morning, I've been working on my step count. Okay. In the morning when I go out, I'm like, man, it kind of feels like fall. It kind of feels like cool down. But if you live in Missouri, you know that this is a false fall. This is not actually cool down temperatures. And no matter what the weather feels like, it will turn up the heat in just a couple days, maybe a week, whatever, right? Like we're in the false fall. Like people have that anticipation of, it's, summer's almost over, school's about to start. And temperatures, from last week were like 100. This week they're closer to 80s. And it's like, oh my gosh, fall is coming. No. Fall is not coming. This is a false sense of comfort, and it's going to warm back up. And maybe you might not think this is a false fall because it's too early, but I've just been seeing so much about fall on my For You page, my social media. I don't know. I love it for you. I do. But I decided today I'm going to dress in Americana. A little ode to the Olympics that are happening. And I have my red, my blue, and gray, honestly. But Labor Day is the 1st of September. So I had white shorts on, but I'm trying to get away with wearing still like summer colors, even though this is a sweater. Like I said, it feels like a false fall. Like the temperature is dropping and it feels really good, but we're here for summer. We still have multiple weekends that we can make an impact, make those like special little moments to remember the summer forever. Now, I have an Ask the Gals episode for you today. We have 2 submissions that I picked this week. They're a little bit longer, a little bit more intense, so I wanted to make sure that I had enough time to chat about them. Now, if you would like to submit a situation or a question that is happening in your life, please send it to me at Logan Lee Miller on Instagram. I am so sorry. That is my personal. You can definitely send it to my personal, but send it to the Golden Hour Drip Instagram, or you can email goldenhourdrip@gmail.com. I pick submissions weekly, and we have a little Ask the Gal segment. Of course, this is my own opinion. Okay. Like you don't have to agree with it. There was a clip about drinking that kind of went it got some views. Okay. Like there's a couple of people who saw it, and the overall consensus was like, because I was drinking and my little tip on how to avoid conversation around drinking, people were like, why would you even hang out with alcoholics? Like, that is never my intention to like disrupt or disregard anybody else's opinion on like the situation. This is just what I am bringing to the table, what I think that you should do, or the advice that I would give, and I'm always open to like conversations about that. So if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, like that's pretty good advice, or maybe that's not the advice you would pick, totally fine. You're allowed to have your own opinion, okay? And we can discuss, and if you think that you would give different advice, let me know below, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Like, what would you do in this situation? Because it's just you and me, girl. Like, we're just talking, we're just vibing, and let's get into it. So my boyfriend and I eloped this spring to avoid a big expensive fuss. Both sets of parents now want to have a celebration anyways. My husband and I agreed to a small family get together, but when we talked to either of our moms, it sounds like it's spiraling into a full-blown reception. This is not what we want. How do I let them down easy and stop the planning? Weddings are so exciting. And if you already had your intimate celebration, maybe you went to the courthouse, maybe you eloped to a trip. I know that's so popular. People, instead of having like a big wedding, they'll use that money and go on a trip together. They'll get like their marriage license and sign it. I know that the state of Colorado, you're able to like marry yourself. So it can just be you and your future spouse, and you can sign the papers. So you don't have to have a wedding. And I'm not sure about like the other states that are also able to do that, but if that is what you wanted and you're happy with that, right? Like if you're happy with how it went down, you guys feel so in love. I think often people want the big wedding and they don't want the marriage. They don't want the actual like meat of it. They want a celebration. They want the happiness and the maybe gifts or anything. So I don't think that it's bad that you had a small celebration, or even like Hey, I hope that you're enjoying today's podcast episode. Just a quick interruption to let you know that the Golden Hour Drip podcast has a monthly newsletter. You'll find podcast updates, upcoming events and information, and bonus content. If you haven't already, click the link in the show notes and join today. Now, back to the show. You eloped and didn't invite anybody. That's your prerogative. That's what you guys wanted. And having the focus on the relationship instead of everything else, right? Like having the focus on you guys making this life commitment and joining your lives, right? Like joining everything. And I think that's really, really fun and beautiful. Now, some tactical steps to get your mothers to stop planning, because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like both sides are wanting a bigger celebration, and that can be really difficult. I'm not sure if either of you have siblings or not. I know that if they feel like this is their one chance, like if they don't have other children, a lot of the heat can feel like it's all on you, right? Like your parents might have the verbiage of, oh, well, you're our only child. Like, we really want this for you. If you like agreed to a small ceremony and they're not respecting your boundaries and they're making it to like this full blown reception, I would take some power back by having concrete, like plans already. So if they're thinking, oh, like we are booking this huge rental and like we're spending this money, maybe you take control and you don't necessarily like, and I know this might not be financially feasible, but you might say, hey, like I've already booked this restaurant for this evening. If your parents are wanting to pay for like a portion of it, you could say, if you could take care of the meal, we're going to have 7 people there. if you can do that, great. If not, we'll just have everybody pay for themselves. It can be a super intimate, super small situation. But I would try and see like where they're coming from, right? Like if you can understand, are they wanting like to wear a nice dress? Okay, wear a nice dress to the dinner. If they're wanting, to show you off to their friends and family, maybe do a small photo shoot. You can do it off your phone or whatever. Have a small photo shoot of your intimate family and be like, here, now you can show your friends our wedding photos. And like, this is your life, and this is one small aspect of it. So if you can compromise or give in for like the smallest little thing, I know that it will probably make them happy. Of course, your happiness is so important too, but you eloped, you did it, you got what you wanted. And if you're like worried about all eyes on you, again, be firm. Worst case scenario, they plan this and you don't show up. Like they can plan this entire reception, this big ceremony, and you can be like, oh, actually, I'm sorry. We told you we didn't want something big, and we won't be there. So you can have a party with your friends, but we're not going to be there. Again, family is so hard to talk to sometimes. And if they are like trying to be very persuasive, the best thing to do is state your boundaries and say, if it's not, within this, we won't be attending. So you can throw your party, you can do all your things, but we won't be there. Hopefully that'll soften the blow. And you said in your submission that both sides of your moms are really excited. Talk to your dads. See if your dads can like simmer them down a little bit and, maybe have their perception of, hey, like we don't need to have this big gathering. Maybe you can say, what if we do something else? Or if you're really wanting to contribute financially, we would love to, have a down payment for a house or a car or even furniture in your home, all of those things, because weddings can be expensive. And if you don't find it like a good way to spend money, then you shouldn't have to, right? Like you should not have to do anything that you don't want to. And it's about you and your spouse. It is not about your family. I had to have that reminded to me so many times because I wanted to appease everybody. Parents aside, anybody who I talked to, they would have their own opinion. Like, oh my gosh, you should do this. You should do this. You should do this. And I would then get a little bit stressed. I'm like, oh my gosh, like one of my bridesmaids wants to do this, or maybe my aunt said this, or my uncle asked if we were going to have this. And Garrett had to remind me, he's like, this is our wedding. Like, take a breather. Like anything you don't want, we don't have to do. So just having that reminder of we're already married. Everything else is just extra. Everything else is just like a little happiness. State your boundaries and stick to them as hard as it is. Know that you'll get through this. It's one little minor thing in your marriage of a lifetime of happiness. One of my close friends used to be roommates. One of my close friends and I used to be roommates. Now we live apart, but it almost seems like we don't. My ex-roommate is always over, helps herself to my things, and stays for hours. How do I enforce a boundary when I thought a separate apartment would do it? Okay. This one's difficult because if you literally were asking for my table, I just like slammed it down. What is going on? Okay, we're fixed. I did this all. I'm so sorry. My table is not as tall as I would like it to be. So I popped like two little weights underneath. And sometimes like the table, if I lean onto it or like press my elbow to it, will shake and the microphone runs into my mouth. So I'm so sorry. But if you are trying to create space away from your ex-roommate, and you thought an apartment would do it, start not being at home. Start going to a library or something, staying later at work, whatever. So when they text you and they're like, hey, like, are you home? You won't be home. If they have a key to your apartment, switch the locks. Like, start making it not apparent. You don't have to be responsive to their texts. You don't have to be at home when they're expecting you to be. And if they know your schedule or know like specifics of like your daily routine, change it up sometimes, right? Like pretend that your roommate is a stalker, or maybe they are. Maybe you're starting to feel stalker vibes. Start treating it as if this is someone you are avoiding. If that sounds like terrible, I'm sorry. Maybe have a conversation with them. Like maybe just set them down and say, hey, like I love spending time with you, right? Like I have so much fun when we're together, but I do need my own space. And there's some nights where I don't feel like entertaining anybody. And I know in the past, like we've lived together and, if you like miss that, I understand. Like moving apart or in different like apartments can be a big shift. Maybe they're feeling lonely. Maybe they don't, have someone to talk to like they used to, right? Like if you guys were roommates, suggest a cat, suggest they get a roommate or a hobby or any of those things. But if it like gets to be too much, sometimes we do need to like cut off a relationship. If you are wanting to have more separation, like there's a reason you didn't room together. Maybe it's because you just feel like you want to be an adult now and you are growing and maturing into a different person. Like that's also fine. There are so many reasons on why you wouldn't want to room together. And I get it. Like when you're alone, you want to be alone. If you don't want to entertain someone, you want to be by yourself. Maybe it's to binge a TV show or to craft or whatever your reasons. You do not ever have to like give explanation on why you want a night in alone. And if you find someone is constantly inviting themselves over, maybe it's time to just sit them down, have a conversation, and again, reiterate, hey, I love hanging out with you. I love spending time. Tonight's not a good night. Tomorrow isn't either. Can we limit our visits to like once a month instead of like every other day? Find the boundary and stick to it. It's going to be hard. It is so hard to tell people things that when you know they're going to be disappointed, right? Like when you know they are really looking forward to something, but it is just grating on your nerves. It's making you go crazy or feeling like some sort of anger or conflict in your heart. Like I want you to feel comfortable in your home. I want you to feel like this is an oasis. This is somewhere you can just like chill out and hang. I know for myself, like your home is your safe haven. It's where you can go and be, and you don't have to put on a show for anyone. You don't have to be a certain way. You don't even have to like clean up all that often if you don't want to, right? Like this is your space and it should be safe for you. If this is someone where you don't want to come over, make that known. Let them know. If you're going to try the more like avoidant tactic, although you should always be direct with people, not being home all the time when they're scheduling to be there, right? Like if they say, hey, like what are you doing Friday, to just say, oh, I'll be out Friday, and then be out. Okay. So they're not like, hey, I see your car's in the drive, like can I come in, right? But just like communication is so huge. So if it's something where you're like, this is actually bothering me so much, I'm gonna go crazy, come at it with kindness, right? Like you never know what someone else is going through, but just try to be kind but firm. Set your boundary and be like, hey, I don't want you over all the time. Okay. And if they're your really good friend, right? Like you guys room together for some time. You should be able to be so transparent with them and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. How are you feeling? Like maybe invite yourself to their house. Maybe just show up and be like, hey, I'm here. I'm at your house. Like, why is she always coming to yours? Does she have one? I don't know. Like, maybe you should go to hers. So, that it's a work in progress. So you are going to have to put little baby reminders and just constantly be firm, but be kind. I think that is a great motto, for anybody in any situation. So thank you so much for listening to this week's Ask the Gal segment. I would love to, hear any comments or questions that you might have, be sure to send your submissions to goldenhourdrip@gmail.com. And we're also on YouTube. So if you usually listen to the audio podcast, we have a visual as well. So go over to YouTube, give us some love there. And if you are usually on YouTube, hi, hello, how are ya? Well, go to the audio and just subscribe. Give us 5-star rating. It would mean the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye.